Welcome into the Scoop, the number one UNC football recruiting podcast, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. All right, welcome into the Scoop. We have a very, very special episode, guys.
Very special.
We're recording this on Monday afternoon, April 3rd. You should be listening to this Wednesday or after. I think it's going to release on Wednesday. But I have some news, and if you're listening to On the Beat last night, or if you're on Twitter on Tuesday, I am leaving Inside Carolina, and this is my last podcast, the Scoop podcast with Don. And so this is the last one I'm doing. This is not, it does kind of sound like an April Fool's joke, but it's not. I'm leaving Inside Carolina. My last day was Tuesday. Of course, recording this Monday. And I am taking a couple months off. I'm traveling to Thailand and Vietnam. I'm also going to Colombia in South America. And then I'm moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan for 1 year. And then I'll be back in North Carolina, hopefully after that 1 year is over. So Ann Arbor in July, August 1st to August 1st, and be back in Chapel Hill. But yeah, my 5.5 year run inside Carolina has come to an end. Don, thoughts?
As I said to you on the Slack, you found a way to make 5.5 years feel like 25 years. But in honor of this moment, more of my favorite shirt. I feel like that you'll appreciate it. Can you see it?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Don's wearing a "I pooped today" shirt. I've never seen that one before.
Um,
Um,
so um yeah,
what's
no,
your
it uh,
what's your initial thoughts? I told you a long time ago. This has been in
yeah.
the works for months. What were your initial thoughts when I told you?
Well, it kind of felt like it was never going to happen. Not in a bad. I'm not trying to make it. It's just one of those things where just kind of we were just going for so long with this as the idea, and but yeah, I
Move your
mean,
mic a little. Move your mic a little bit away.
I
There you
think it's going to obviously Inside Carolina is going to be different. And you bring a unique voice to Inside Carolina, so that will be missed. I think there are a lot of people who aren't big fans of Ross Martin, and they might be happy initially, but I think long term they're going to miss you too because I think certain people love having that villain in their life too. Um,
go.
but
Hey, I'll say
but
this: I would rather elicit, extreme positive emotions or extreme negative, emotions than not elicit any emotion. You know what I'm saying?
yes, and I think that's what you did throughout your tenure was you had a lot of people who really liked you, and then some people on Twitter. It was very very funny to me. Particularly, I mean, let's just be honest. It was the people who just always wanted to be, always thought that everything should be 100% positive, even in negative situations. You obviously are not afraid to speak your mind, and there's a lot of people who do not like that, and are afraid to go in those territories. So
Yeah,
kudos to you. But it's going to
people.
be very different without you here.
Yeah, people who have issues with me usually either don't have a sense of humor or don't like the truth. Those are the
Yes.
two things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
So
agree with that.
we're going to get into more of that. I think Don's got something special planned at the end of this
Yes.
podcast. But let's get. We
Exit.
actually
We
have
have an exit interview at the end of the podcast.
yeah, which I know nothing about. It's exciting. So stay tuned to that. We do have an actual podcast here. We're going to talk UNC football recruiting. UNC got two commitments since the last time we talked. We do this, every 2 weeks. So two commitments from UNC. Let's preview their names here. Daniel Anderson, an edge rusher from Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
committed at some point last week, and then Luke Masterson, an offensive tackle from Nashville, Tennessee, committed, I believe, Saturday. Yeah,
Yes. It's the commitment Saturday.
yeah. So UNC has two commitments. They now have seven commitments for the 2024 class. So we're talking about those guys. There's also some news on the quarterback situation. Sorry. For UNC, two of UNC's top targets committed elsewhere. Jake Davis committed to Michigan, and Jake Merklinger committed to Tennessee. So kind of a reset of UNC's quarterback board for the 2024 class. We're then going to get into a little bit of a weekly scoop preview, which will obviously drop Tuesday, so you'll have it. By the time all subscribers will have that by the time you're listening to this, and just do some odds and ends with UNC football recruiting, and then get into the last part of the show, which will be Don's exit interview for me.
Yes.
Sound good?
Sounds great.
Remember, guys, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. We always appreciate you listening. And we'll get into it. Okay, Don. So quickly here, not quickly, but two names that I don't know if I'd never heard the Daniel Anderson name. I'd seen Luke Masterson's name a couple times in interviews and whatnot, but it seemed like Daniel Anderson kind of visited, really liked it. Got the offer that he wanted and committed. Let's go through his recruitment a little bit, and then go into him as a player.
So he was a kid who mostly was making a bunch of visits to some group of 5 schools. I think his top 4 or 5: Coastal Carolina, Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee State, and Troy, were I guess the main ones he was looking at. He plays for former UNC defensive back Gene Robinson. Gene was taking a bunch of his team members to a few schools. They were doing kind of a trip. They stopped a bunch of places, including North Carolina. I think actually I have it. We had a story up on him on Anderson where he lays it out. I'm pretty sure Duke was one of them. There's a few other schools, but anyway, prior to, or actually while they were in the middle of that, I don't know what his problem is. I'm talking about my cat is driving me nuts. Which is making it difficult for me to focus. Prior to arriving at North Carolina, the visit was already planned and everything. He receives a phone call from Tim Cross. Tim Cross offers him a scholarship, which obviously changes the whole dynamics of this upcoming visit. Goes on the visit, comes out of the visit. We had a story on, I think, in the middle of last week, but we also mentioned it in the Weekly Scoop that Anderson said, "Hey, North Carolina is my number one. It's going to be really difficult for any other school to surpass UNC." He had plans on taking a couple more visits, didn't want to rush anything. I think he was definitely kind of feeling the whole commitment idea, but didn't want to rush into anything. But I think after just continuing to talk to his family members and to those he's close with, he just kept on coming back to the same conclusion. So on, I think it was Friday, he announced his commitment to North Carolina.
There you go. 6'2", 245 edge rusher, not ranked by 24/7 Sports, who doesn't have a composite ranking either. I mean, it sounds like a little situation where he got the Power 5 offer and kind of went ahead and grabbed it. Is that accurate? I mean, because all his other offers are non-Power 5. He has Indiana, it looks like.
Yeah, it does have any. Yeah, that's the only other
which
Power
is, I
5.
guess, relatively close to. I mean, Indiana's relatively close to Tennessee, I think. But yeah, so is that kind of he got the high
I
level
think it
offer he
was.
wanted?
Yeah, I think I think yes, but I think that makes it a little bit too simplistic. I think one of the things is if you go, if you've ever visited some of these Group of 5 programs, they have very nice campuses, they have nice facilities. But then after you visit a bunch of those, and then you go to a school like North Carolina, and you're comparing it to Middle Tennessee State, to Miami of Ohio, you're going to get blown away. But he also established a quick relationships with the UNC coaches, particularly Gene Chizik, because even though Tim Cross initially offered him, once he got into Chapel Hill on that Saturday, he spent a great deal of time with Coach Chizik because he's projected to play that jack position, which Chizik coaches. So he established a big relationship with Chizik, and then on top of that, you have, he joked a bunch even before he committed about Gene Robinson. How Gene Robinson said, "Hey, don't ask me where you should go because you know where I'm going to tell you to go." I think that's more in just joking. And even we kind of talked about it afterwards in the Q&A, and he said, "Hey, Gene was going to want me to go wherever fit best for me," and he said it just happened to be North Carolina.
Does Gene recruit? Does he have an area? Does he recruit particular players, or is he more like kind of a closer? Gene Chizik.
Gene Chizik. So he does have. So they're doing some shifting with all the coaching changes that they wanted to wait to do prior to the spring evaluation period, which is actually coming up in a couple of weeks. And I have not dove into that at all. But so he has some territories in state mostly kind of close to the Chapel Hill area, and then he also has gotten involved. But Caden Jones, he went down there to Christ School to visit with him specifically because he's a jack. They're recruiting him as a jack position,
Got
and
it.
then he gets involved with some of the heavier defensive recruits that
Got
they're
it.
pursuing.
Okay, cool. And then, I mean, I don't know if you're anything groundbreaking on his game, but I imagine he fits what they like at edge. And Jack, 6'2",
Yeah,
decently long, 245, probably relatively quick.
yeah. So I
Give it to
think
me, Don.
someone, this is not an original thought, but someone mentioned Kamen Rucker, and I think that's a really good comparison. A guy who, if you watch his film, he has very impressive film, but he's 6'2". Kamen Rucker 6'2". The knock on Kamen Rucker was great film, great in camps, but he's undersized. I think this kid kind of fits the same sort of mold there, where undersized but has great film, great explosiveness, great motor, sort of thing.
Yeah, and now I think it's interesting. Now that Chiswick is in with that Jack, they're going to be recruiting people that exactly fit that mold, relative, other than kind of trying to flip an outside linebacker or a defensive end and making him fit that Jack spot. They're going after guys who they think can play that position. One thing with Kane Rucker, man, he is thick. Like he
Yeah,
is not slight at all. He's a thick dude. Let's see what he's listed for UNC. Whereas
I think he's a,
I'm not sure,
well, I don't know if this is
does
updated, but
is
265,
um
two
six
six two
six
two
one
six.
two sixty. Yeah, 6'1.5", 260. So,
Mm-hmm.
but he's like, it doesn't seem like he'd be the quick, guy who could drop into coverage, but he is a starting Jack right now alongside Armani Gainer. All right, Daniel Anderson. Anything else on him?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay, great, great, just kind of simple name.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing
Don't try to
crazy about it.
Google him. It take you forever to find him.
I don't know. There's probably a lot of Daniel Andersons in the database, which means when you add tags on our content, you have to add it manually rather than the computer finds it. A little
Yeah,
inside the biz there for you there, Don.
you're
All right.
behind baseball.
Next, next commitment was Luke Masterson from Franklin Road Academy, FRA in Nashville, Tennessee. 6'6", 275. He is ranked 755 overall, 59 ranked offensive tackle, 24 ranked player in the state of Tennessee. Run through the offer list here. App State, Austin Peay, Cincinnati, Colorado, Duke, Eastern Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Liberty, Louisville, Memphis. You gotta get that range. Missouri, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Virginia, Wake Forest, West Virginia. This is kind of the range that UNC generally recruits in. West Virginia, Wake Forest, Virginia, Vanderbilt. Mid to lower tier SEC schools, and then ACC schools. Kentucky, Georgia Tech, Duke. So this is kind of right in their wheelhouse. I think a lot of fans would want them to recruit against the Clemsons, Georgias, South Carolina, that level. But here we go. Luke Masterson. What happened with his recruitment? And let's go from there.
Yeah, so he was a guy who, his parents actually lived in Chapel Hill for a little bit. His dad went to law school at UNC, and this is before Luke was born. Spent some time in Chapel Hill, so they're very familiar with the area. And back in January, he had planned on visiting Duke. I think it was about 10 days before that visit. UNC offered. He goes and visits. Obviously, North Carolina, especially with that connection, became a huge player for him. He came out of January, entered the February dead period with a top five that consisted of UNC, Duke, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, and Wake Forest. Continued to take some visits. After the February dead period, he expanded his list to 8 to include Colorado, TCU, and Virginia. TCU actually probably could have been a little bit of a threat. His sister actually goes there, so he's familiar with the school. He has another sister who goes to SMU, which is obviously also in Texas, so they're familiar with the states, familiar with the surroundings and all that. But they just started recruiting him recently. But he was just kind of looking at things and just kind of felt like, hey, I don't want to. I really like North Carolina. He mentioned that North Carolina really coming out of that most recent visit. I'm sorry. So he visited in January, and then he came back a couple weekends back. Coming out of
Okay.
that, North Carolina became the leader, and just ultimately was like, hey, I don't want to miss on this opportunity by visiting these other schools that maybe I like, but I probably won't be something that I really would like, and just ended up committing to North Carolina.
Okay. So it's UNC's third offensive line commitment. He joins Andrew Rosinski out of Georgia, who's also a long, tall offensive tackle, and Desmond Jackson from Winston-Salem, Clemens area, who's going to be an interior player, 6'5", 290. So you would think they take at least one more offensive lineman, maybe 5 total?
Yeah, I think if the numbers are right, or the prospects are right, they'll take 5. I think the goal is 4 for sure, though.
Okay. His game, anything stand out to you that you need to discuss with us? Luke Masterson.
I mean, he's obviously a kid who will come in as a tackle. He's tall, long, 6'6", 275 pounds. Moves really well. But yeah, I mean, nothing. I don't have anything crazy to say. But he's coming in as an offensive tackle.
Great. We need obviously, since this is my last podcast, but it'd be great to have you just have a recording of your breakdown for each position and just push play. And so when it's an offensive tackle, it's long, athletic. If it's a jack, shifty, can drop into coverage. If it's a run, et cetera. All right.
Yeah.
And a little news out of spring practice here that kind of relates to Don is that Caden Baker, the offensive tackle from Florida, medically retired. We don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. I think they're kind of trying to keep that locked down. But this was a guy that was essentially Don's crush in the 2020 class, 21.
See what happens when I go out on a limb. I mean, the odds are. Let's be. If we did a project on a weekly scoop a few weeks ago, or probably like a few months ago, where I went and looked back at prior classes, and the hit rate is just crazy. It's maybe 50-50. So obviously I'm going to be wrong more than I'm right. He was a kid who I just loved his athleticism, loved his size, loved his potential, loved his pedigree. His dad played at Florida State offensive line. He didn't really focus on football too much, so there was obviously that ceiling, that higher ceiling and all that, but had the basketball background. But yeah, I mean, didn't work out as I had thought.
Yeah, in 2020 class, Caden Baker didn't play too much. I mean, that one game he played center. They needed a center, and it was against Duke, I believe, in Chapel Hill, and he ended up playing center for about half the snaps. I wrote the article about him medically retiring, kind of went through all his snaps, played special teams, but never really started. But who knows? I mean, he was still had some time. He was part of the, one of UNC's best classes with Tony Grimes and Desmond Evans and Josh Downs and Miles Murphy and Corey Conley, Jacoby Criswell. Caden Baker medically retires. That's about enough on him. But we joked about how much you loved him.
I did. He was a kid I really liked a lot, and I mean, sometimes when you have like a projection, a guy you kind of fall in love with, and they don't pan out, and you look back and you can think of what happened. In this situation, I really struggled to see what went wrong here. Why didn't he develop into the guy I thought he could? I mean, he definitely had the tools, but didn't materialize. And that's a big part of this game.
Mm-hmm. Well said. All right, let's take a quick break and talk about Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, your one-stop shop for all your UNC apparel needs, online and on Franklin Street. Johnny T-Shirt, the longtime loyal sponsor of Inside Carolina Podcast. T-shirts, jerseys, hats, anything, gift giving. We got wedding season coming up. My big gift for weddings, Don, you ready for this?
I'm
All
ready.
the UNC fans in your life.
This is what we're going to miss. This right here. This sort of advice.
I get the bride and groom matching sweatshirts. Bride and groom, or bride and bride, or groom and groom. I give them matching sweatshirts. I've done it a couple times.
I
Shout
love
out
how
Jack.
inclusive you are.
Hey man, I've been to a gay wedding.
Everybody should feel welcome.
I've been to a gay wedding.
All right. Hey, no, everybody should feel welcome on the Scoop podcast.
That's right. Matching sweatshirts, great wedding gift. Or matching anything. It's kind of, if they're big UNC fans, UNC grads, get matching sweatshirts, go to Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. And remember, all Inside Carolina subscribers get 10% off. So make sure you're a subscriber and then use that 10% off code to get your discount. Check them out online. Great customer service. You know, they can work with you, get your stuff shipped to you if you need it quickly. And then of course, on Franklin Street, right there in the heart of Franklin Street, downtown Chapel Hill. We appreciate their support. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Rate, review, and subscribe. We'll be right back for more of the Scoop podcast. Okay, Donnie boy, we are back. Quarterbacks. UNC last podcast, we went heavy on Jake Merklinger.
Mm-hmm.
And then he visits Tennessee, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he commits Tennessee shortly thereafter. The Jake Merklinger dream to UNC is over. And also, Jaden Davis, who I think became clear it wasn't going to be UNC, but he is off the board. The 5-star guy.
He toyed with UNC throughout his entire recruitment. I never felt like North Carolina was ever going to be the landing spot ever. There's never a point, you know, and this is not like a hindsight is 2020 sort of thing. There were different points where I thought, oh, maybe North Carolina can get Merklinger. With Jaden Davis, it never felt like North Carolina was going to be the spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I wonder what Michigan did. I mean, of all places, Michigan got in there and got him with it. It seemed like they always led. It's kind of random considering SEC schools being right there near Charlotte, and but something about Michigan. So Jaden Davis out of Providence Day School, 5-star, commits to Michigan. So there is a reset of UNC's quarterback board. I guess Don, just kind of take us through it. I know KJ Jackson visited recently. There's interest with another player, Judd Anderson, which is a completely new name for me. Do love the name Judd for a quarterback.
To you.
But yeah, I'm going through the offer list right now, but go ahead and tell us where it stands right now.
Yeah, so I mean, you laid it out perfectly, you know, kind of a little bit of a reset. I mean, KJ Jackson is the last outstanding offer to a quarterback that North Carolina has out there. And he visited twice this offseason, most recently a couple weekends ago. You know, he has a couple of visits coming up, West Virginia and Arkansas. Arkansas, I believe, is this coming weekend. That's a big one. That's a school that he visited last summer. They offered him a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and it's a school that he hasn't really explored too much. And keep in mind, this is an Alabama kid, so obviously in the heart of SEC country. So he could be, I'm not saying this is the case, but he could be a little bit more interested in Arkansas than, you know, a kid from North Carolina would be, for sure. So got to keep that in mind. So they're definitely a threat. So UNC is trying to figure out what's going to happen here at this position. And, I think Judd Anderson is just one other example of a kid that UNC is interested in as they look to potentially expand their quarterback board.
Yeah, it's crazy. One outstanding offer out. I mean, it also feels like here, just kind of looking at UNC's quarterbacks offers, some of these guys were never really in question, but like the quarterbacks in the 2024 class are finding their destination now. Like it's kind of a rush now to find a home. Jaden Davis comes off the board. Merklinger comes off the board. KJ Jackson probably will come off the board here soon too, I imagine. So it's kind of time to find your quarterback. Is there a sense of urgency? Like at what point do they start offering more kids to make sure they have a guy?
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it like a sense of urgency, but I think I just fixed that for you.
Perfect. That was perfect. Don's had some video issues, but he recognized it, logged out, or not logged out, but whatever you did, it worked.
Yeah, and I think North Carolina has a really good shot at KJ Jackson. I wouldn't be comfortable. That I guess is the best way to put it, but it wouldn't surprise me if he comes out of these visits and ends up making a decision and chooses North Carolina. But he had a top 4. Obviously included North Carolina, included Arkansas, included West Virginia, and then also Penn State's in there. He visited Penn State twice this offseason also, once in January, once earlier in March. So they're obviously involved. But I think it feels like that this comes down to Arkansas or UNC, and it's just a matter of what he's most comfortable with.
KJ Jackson for those, just a refresh here, 6'3", 215, St. James School in Montgomery, Alabama, 24/7 Sports Composite 4-star, 391 overall, 24 ranked quarterback. So I guess it's kind of a wait and see what happens with him, and then go from there, right?
Yeah, and we'll have more in the weekly scoop this week, which you might have already read by the time you're listening to this.
There you go. How about this, Don? If they don't get a guy they like, and they don't want to extend their board too much, they don't want to get a guy that doesn't think they'll have a chance to play. Dude, why don't you just bring in a transfer that has 3 more years, 4 more years availability? Like a guy that, like, at some school that they saw in high school that they liked, that has 3, 4 years of eligibility, that seems to be maybe recruited over at an Alabama or at a Georgia or Ohio State where he's not going to play. I mean, I wonder if that is also in the
I mean,
minds of UNC.
yeah. I mean, I think you would only look that route as if Drake is definitely not coming back. I know that's a foregone conclusion that everybody has. I want to wait until Drake actually makes the announcement before. But if he does, then I think that's a route you look at. But you got to remember, I don't think. I mean, well, Jefferson Boaz is going to stay here forever, so you don't have to worry about him. But I don't think Connor Harrell will. I don't know. I think that Connor Harrell will definitely kind of consider at least to transfer. I would think if I was him, considering the circumstances.
Would
You know
he
what I mean?
be if Drake came back?
I'm saying, all right. So no, if
Oh, if they brought
Drake
in the
leaves, you
transfer,
bring in a transfer. If I'm Connor Harrell, that would bother me.
yeah.
Tad
Well,
Hudson is
competition.
yeah, but yeah, and I guess we're seeing a little bit more now where a lot of these transfers are coming in and they aren't winning the job. So there's
Yeah.
always that. Or you get in a situation where you bring in a transfer portal guy, you battle him during the spring, you see what happens, and then you make a decision. I don't know. I think you almost have to kind of. My preference would be to go the high school route and to keep that flow, because then I think if you can
Yeah.
keep this depth chart intact, it's a good depth chart with Connor Harrell. You have Tad Hudson, who I know everyone has kind of wrote off because the last couple seasons weren't great statistic wise in high school, but I still think the talent's there. So you don't know what he could be. You have Boaz, who obviously is bringing the depth too.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, Connor Harrell transfer. I mean, I think you bring a guy and look, we need to find a really good quarterback. And you bring someone to compete with Harrell, and if Harrell beats him out, that's great. And then the transfer guy is now your backup, because you if you don't trust Tad, then you got Harrell starting with no one behind him. You know, you might want to bring one guy in anyway if you don't think you have the guy. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
different
but I
ways
mean,
to
I
look at
don't
it.
think that they don't trust Tad. I mean, I guess we don't know.
This is
The
we're
other,
all it's a lot
yeah,
of hypotheticals here
speculation.
too. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah. And the other
speculation.
thing too, yeah, the other thing is that none of these guys are Chip Lindsey's guys, or guys that he brought in, you
Yeah,
know. So I would
yeah.
think
No,
Lindsey would want to bring in one of his guys, and I think that there should be plenty of quarterbacks out there that you could find someone with some sort of potential and see what happens.
there you go. Yeah, the ideal world, you get a high school kid to keep the flow going, as you said.
Yeah.
Um, Drake leaving early does kind of move it forward a little quicker than I think they thought, but that's the world we live in when you recruit fucking studs like Drake.
Whoa.
Well, almost a little f bomb there. Um,
How fitting on
I,
the final show.
I got a little hype for Drake there.
Whoa.
Um, we
You
saw
still have
Drake.
your
We saw
Drake May underwear on right now?
we saw Drake at Merritt's on Saturday, and he came and talked to me, and I know his dad pretty well, just from
Yeah.
covering Luke and him. And Drake knew the news already. He came up to me and brought it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So it's out there. It
must be a
leaked.
big must be a big deal in the football center.
That's
That'll be
interesting.
no more hard questions for the football program with me and Duan. Um, all right. Okay, let's move on here. You want to preview Weekly Scoop last weekend, and then we'll get out of here with a little exit interview. Be on our way.
Yeah. I'm not going to be too long with this stuff, mostly because I'm still kind of working through a lot of it. I've talked to most of the major players, or most of the major recruits who visited. There's a couple I'm still waiting to hear back from. Yeah, I mean, obviously, ran a story on Monday on
Alex Taylor? No,
Alex
that was today.
Taylor. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Today
Monday.
is
Yeah.
Monday. Yeah, but yeah, people aren't gonna anyway. Also Jordan Ship. There we the weekly scoop's going to touch on some of the other wide receivers, such as Micah Gilbert. God, I'm going. I think I haven't had enough coffee today. Anyway, and there were a bunch of offers that were extended over the weekend. The weekly soup's going to get into those sort of situations and just kind of where North Carolina goes. We talked about the quarterback situation. The weekly scoop will touch on that also. So there's a lot of different directions the weekly scoop will go into. Definitely some of the developments that have happened recently.
Okay. Is there anything you want to tell in particular?
No, I do not.
Okay. What a preview. And I haven't read it yet because it's not out. All
That's
right.
right.
Anything else on recruiting?
I guess not.
Okay. Let me
You
ask you this
ready?
question as we get. Yeah. Let me ask you this question. What will you
Okay.
miss most about me working for Inside Carolina?
What would I miss most? I will miss most someone saying, "Hey, have you seen this tweet that a bunch of people are mad at Ross about?"
How does that happen?
Uh,
But
once a month, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
That or like just the I mean, I enjoyed the people hating on you. I thought that was great. And then you just didn't care, and I thought that was even better. But
I think you're
yeah,
blowing a little bit out of proportion. Like it doesn't happen that often.
I don't know. I feel like it does.
What are some
Or
examples
maybe
of tweets?
there was a tweet where you had of the stadium at one of the
Oh yeah,
games, and like, oh my God, it was so long. Just the responses and people, this
yeah.
and that, and
People hate when I say
oh
the student section looks bad. When it's like
yeah.
it does look bad, and they should have a full student section. It's
And I
like
remember,
don't argue with it. It's empty.
yeah, well, that's coming from the Sunshine Pumpers. You know what I mean? That's what that is.
Yeah.
Um, and then I thought the one day that Tommy Hatton was going to kill you.
Let's not talk about that.
Okay, let's not
That
talk
was
about
a
it.
complete misunderstanding. I don't get why he misread a post on a message board.
I'm not going to go into details, but I laughed my butt off. I
Yeah.
don't I thought it was really funny. Also was concerned. It
Yeah,
was just so funny to
I
me.
was scared. Scared.
Considering the characters involved in that, it was very funny to me. Um, yeah, I mean it's I might actually miss your short shorts. See some guy strutting up towards me with short shorts on, and now that won't happen
Yeah,
anymore.
people always talk about short shorts, but like your baggy long shorts below your knees, I think is an awful look too. Like it's to each their
Is
own,
that
you know.
is that what I got?
Your
I
your
got gym
cargo
shorts on now.
your cargo, long, so much fabric. It's like whatever. I
Well,
mean,
I got a lot of things I got to hold.
yeah, no, I mean you're a cargo shorts guy. You're
I
either a cargo
guess
shorts guy or a
I
not a cargo
am.
shorts guy.
Well, I wear whatever my wife purchased me.
My favorite thing is you wear a tie to cover the pre games.
Yeah,
You do it
you
like
gotta
yeah,
look. Sometimes you gotta look studly.
that's right.
And then there were a couple times where you made that request, so I was like, all right, this game
Yeah,
looks good for a tie. So anyway, you want to get to the exit interview?
sure.
All right. So I might be adding some to this as we go, but I do have a handful. All right. What is the craziest story you have from the beat? I'm thinking something along the lines, maybe like on an away game, you're leaving the stadium and something like that, or whatever it may be.
I mean, I'll say the craziest game was the Final Four basketball game, national championship game, when Marcus Page hit the shot and then Villanova went down and hit the game winner. I mean, the bang bang on that was incredible. People throwing stuff. That was an unbelievable place to be in, and be in that losing locker room after. This is basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of anything football related. Um, some of those losing locker rooms with Fedora were pretty sad. I remember the Duke loss when Daniel Jones went off, I believe, but it wasn't. Daniel Jones also beat Mitch Trubisky, but it might have been they also lost the next year because Fedora had 2 more years after Trubisky. I've been some of those locker rooms were pretty tough. Not locker rooms. Press conferences were pretty tough to be in. Crazy though, man, that's tough. I'm trying to think about recruiting.
Or even if it was like something like just an encounter,
Yeah,
you know.
Tommy Hadden.
Well,
Um,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, along those lines. But
I would say one. I mean, the Tony Grimes recruitment was kind of crazy with because when it's a big time recruit, I end up also contributing to content with that. And his recruitment was during COVID. I remember I did it all when I was in Connecticut, staying with my significant other at the time, her mom's house during COVID, and so all that was while I was in Connecticut. And then getting to know Tony Grimes' dad has been an interesting wrinkle to the coverage as well.
visual
Um,
like tissue.
Official Lactation, I mean, electric Twitter account. And then, yeah, getting to the coaches has been pretty cool through recruiting and being a little bit close to the program through even the beat and recruiting. So yeah, I'll think on that one though. If there's anything crazy,
Yeah, you
I
kind of
mean,
sort of ventured into my next question, which is the best part at work. Well, all right, let's make this more IC specific. Best part work of best part of working at IC.
it's a great company to work for because you're given freedom to do kind of. There's more freedom. I think. Well, I've worked for myself kind of with 24/7 Sports before I came here, but like if you have an idea or if you want to do something, Ben and Buck are very supportive and open to you pursuing different things. Like the Calling the Shots podcast was a collaboration between me and Jeff Schottmer. I did the post game show for a while, which was kind of what I wanted to do with more podcasting and live shows. Um, Being involved podcasting and writing, and then it's different stories you want to write and stuff. And they give you there's a lot of support. Like Ben is people don't really know Ben because
He's
he is
behind the
very much
scenes,
behind the scenes. But I mean, he definitely runs the show, but he provides a lot of support. Like he reads your stories, it makes you
reads
sound better.
everything.
He reads everything, so he's editing your stories, giving you ideas, proofing it, making you put together a story and he tweaks a couple things. It sounds better. He's there for support. If you have a couple of days off or you're not gonna be away for an hour, and there's a good teamwork with him and everybody that I see. Working with Greg was great. I mean, Greg, very different from me, but we balance each other out well because he would write stuff that I had no interest in writing in,
Yeah,
and
Greg is unbelievable with anecdote stuff,
in stats
and
and would
just
write on deep.
memory. Yeah.
And
The
I
only
would
thing was I had to share a parking pass with Greg, and Greg takes forever for everything to leave, to get there. He's the last one in the yeah. But anyway,
well,
whereas I imagine you're the opposite of that.
well, if you have to share a parking pass with Adam, I mean, Adam is the slowest
Is
guy.
is
Adam is
he?
very, very slow.
Is he slower than
Yeah,
Greg?
I never experienced Greg's slowness. Greg would take a while in the press box, but
Yeah.
that's pretty normal. Um, yeah, work with Greg was great. Everybody's great. I mean, it's a great company to work for. That's why it's so successful. It's one of the best websites for team coverage in 24/7 Sports and probably within the whole team site world. Um, yeah, and like, dude, it's you're covering UNC, which is I love sports and I love UNC and you're getting paid to do it and you get they provide you with I got a lot you get benefits and this has like been a career for me for now 10 years, which I think people dream of covering a team like this. A lot of work, but also
Mm-hmm.
it's very rewarding. There's a lot of perks, and I mean, it's kind of crazy I'm leaving it because it's a very, very good job. I mean, I am very aware that I'm leaving a very, very good job. That there's times when you work hard, and there's late nights, and there's long hours, but then there's a lot of time when you have so much flexibility
Mm-hmm.
because now there's not much going on. So you get your stuff done in the morning. Don knows about this. Get your stuff done in the morning. You have afternoons off. You have to work Saturdays because there's press conferences on Saturdays. So you have different hours, but there's a lot of flexibility. Working from home and making your own hours is something I will always want to do. It's gonna be hard to ever work a 9 to 5 because, dude, I will wake up. So I wake up at 5 o'clock, work out 5:30, 6:30. Come, and I'll start working at 7. And because start working at 7, I can take a 2 hour lunch. I can go for a run before lunch. I can go to yoga, come back, and so the flexibility of this job is what I really love about it. And covering UNC.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. What is the worst part of working at IC?
I don't want to get in trouble here.
When they can't fire you.
No, it's not really. I mean, I would say that the difficult parts about the job, and I run our Facebook page, our newsletter. I help out with Twitter. And so I have to be on for any breaking news. And
Mm-hmm.
as Don knows, because he does football commitments, the worst part is waiting for the news to break and knowing
Yeah.
it's going to break. And
Yes.
you're held captive
Mm-hmm.
you could be held captive for days. I mean, the basketball stuff. Last couple of years, we have the articles written, and you're waiting for a 19, 20-year-old to make a decision if he's coming back to Carolina or not. Same with big commitments. Like it's coming. It's better to know they're going to announce it at Wednesday at 2 p.m. at their high school, and that that hour you have to be on. But if it's coming at some time, that's the
Yeah.
worst because you have to have your phone on. You have to check it every 5 minutes. I mean, if you don't check your phone every 5 minutes, you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
And so that is an aspect of the job I will not miss. Having to bring your laptop everywhere, having to check your phone or at least communicate with someone that you're going to be away for 2 hours. I mean, during some of these news breaking times, Ben and Adam and I and Greg before, we kind of had to have shifts. Be like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I'll be like, Ben will be like, I'm gonna be away for 2 hours tonight. I'm like, all right, I'll be on tonight for 2, 3 hours, and then hey, I'm gonna be away for the next hour. No phone, no computers, so stuff like that. And with Inside Carolina, we have to have the news out ASAP. So,
Yeah.
I also one thing like with football, I mean, some of these press conferences and player interviews it's the same stuff. It's a little boring. Player interviews for football, it's the same. Covering these teams, sometimes it's the same stuff with different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so that does get a little tiring, but this is just a small complaint that most of the things are positive.
All right. You knew most of those at IC before. Obviously we crossed paths when you were at was it Carolina Blue?
Yeah, I just say I ran the UNC site for 24/7 Sports.
All right. You knew me, you knew Ben. I don't know how
Not really. I don't think I knew Ben. Well, I knew him
well,
from
you don't know
F3.
Ben until you know Ben.
Yeah.
But didn't you guys do cross training or something like that?
We worked with in a workout group together, but like every once in a while.
Okay. And you probably did you know Buck beforehand?
Not really. I mean, I think I only just knew you and
You
Greg.
just okay. Wow, this is going to get really awkward, this question then. All right. How have your perceptions changed of those people?
Um, I mean, I don't know. I mean, really, I don't talk to Buck much, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, Buck is great. He's the owner. He kind of runs the overarching stuff, but I don't have
Yeah.
many day-to-day interactions with that. So, I mean, um, and Ben will admit that Ben is a stickler, a detailed person, and that is a great. I always say Ben's a great editor because that's what you want out of your editor.
Yeah.
So you want someone that's on everything, kind of on you about everything. I'd rather have that than someone who doesn't know what they're doing and is kind of lacks that control. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. really know else to say.
What did you? I mean, I
I've
thought
gotten
you
to know
had.
Jim. I got to know Jim a lot better.
Yeah. So how? I
You
mean,
learn.
the question was just. I mean, Did you view them a different way beforehand, and then obviously, you mean, we're talking. I mean, we're talking. I talked to Ben all day long, and so obviously, I don't know no Ben, but I know Ben.
I've been talk.
So yeah, but I mean,
I
in
will
general,
say, having traveled with Jim and Greg, you learn more about a person when you go
yeah,
out and not on the town or something. A couple beers in there, you learn some different things you didn't know before.
yeah,
Jim being our
yeah,
photographer.
yeah. Okay. All right. What when you look back, what will be your best memory?
I'll say this. I really enjoyed the 2015 football season.
Okay.
That was
Trying to
the
think.
ACC Coastal
Okay.
Champion, 8-0. That was
Okay.
my first year in Chapel Hill. I'd covered kind
Okay.
of UNC from a distance a little bit in Nashville. That team had a lot of characters on it. You had Marquise Williams, Ryan Switzer, Mac Hollins, Bug Howard, and then you had Jeff Schottmer, who's become a friend. Shaquille Rashad has become a friend. It had Landon Turner. Who else was on that team of note? No, it was a good team, and that team just won. They just won games. And that Duke game when you had the flea flicker to Switzer, and after losing to South Carolina, they won the next 11 games, I think, before losing to Clemson in the ACC championship game, and then losing to Baylor. That was a fun year. I mean, the basketball Final Fours are unbelievable. Covering games at Duke basketball are awesome. Like that.
Let me jump in a real question because I've covered some basketball, not nearly to level yours, but are you always on the floor when you cover? Because I
At,
imagine that
at,
changes the
at where?
atmosphere when you're cover a basketball game, like on that front desk there. Are you?
But that's only in a couple places now.
Oh,
I mean,
really? Okay.
UNC,
Okay.
yeah, UNC, we're in the second level.
Okay.
Duke,
Gotcha.
Duke, if you're lucky enough, usually Greg would get the main seat there. So, um, but covering game at Duke is awesome. Like everyone's there.
So most of them though are up higher.
Yeah, I've been on the floor at State, Wake Forest, um, I think Boston College. I subbed in for Greg. Greg and Jim both got sick before the Boston College basketball game, and I had to book my flight that morning and flew up, cover the game that night.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so the three Final Fours
Mm-hmm.
were awesome. Um, Houston in 16, Phoenix in 17, national championship game, and then New Orleans. The run last year. That run last year was awesome. When you're there, you don't get to enjoy it as much. Um,
Because you're in
so
work
you're
mode.
working, you're working,
Yeah.
man. I mean, you have all your friends there too. Like I have tons of
Yeah.
friends who come to
And they
Final
don't
Fours,
understand.
and they're like, "Dude, meet me out. We're going out." It's like, I mean, I got to work and I wake up, but
Yeah.
those runs are fun and it's such a blast. You going from city to city, um, and it's kind of like 3 weeks of just a blur because you're so tired. But and then I always enjoy covering home games for Keene Stadium. It's just a fun way to spend your Saturday. I'm trying to think anything else that stood out in terms of coverage. Um, Roy's retirement was cool. Like that was, I was there for Roy's retirement. Hubert Davis is hiring, and then Mac Brown's hiring was a big deal, I think, as well. So yeah.
All right. So you kind of laid out a little bit what you're planning on doing. So one, what made you want to take that time off to do all this traveling? Because obviously you could have continued to work. When are you leaving for Ann Arbor?
Mid to late July. No date set.
Okay. So I mean, I guess it does make sense because you don't want to continue in the football season get started, I guess. Although I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so what made you want to make sure you took some time off and traveled and all that?
I've always said that if I ever left this job between jobs, I'd want to go do some stuff because you don't get to do that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
never get a time when you have extended time off. Like I'm gonna be in Southeast Asia for like 25 days. ciao. Um, and so I mean, there's only so many more times left in your life when you're gonna be able to do that. And there at some point, I plan to get married, and when you get married, have kids, like there's never gonna be a time when you have 3 weeks off to do
Yeah.
that. So that's why I wanted to take some time off. And then I think it's just I didn't want to go directly from one job to moving. I think moving is such a hassle. So many things if I'm gonna have to change this, turn off this, pack this, sell this. I wanted some time in June, July to kind of get settled and you know not have to worry about writing a commitment story while I'm moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why, yeah. And I'm gonna have to,
Well, I was more interested in the travel stuff. So,
absolutely, yeah,
are you,
yeah. What do you think about me going to Thailand, Vietnam?
that's no, that's awesome. Um, are you bringing the significant other?
I'm going with my buddy Chad.
Okay.
Yeah,
So Chad's taking all this time off.
Chad is also unemployed. He is between jobs by choice, by choice.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
so it worked out well. And actually, Chad's the guy I went to Europe with him in 18, 19. We went to Croatia, Ireland, Croatia, Slovenia, and Budapest.
Okay.
So I've traveled 2 weeks with him before,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a good buddy to travel. He is my wildest friend. I mean, he's the
Wait,
guy you don't
can
like. He's the guy your mom does not want you to travel with.
okay.
I'm the guy that's like, let's go home and get some sleep. He's the guy, let's go out and stay out till 4 a.m.
Okay. Gotcha.
Chad.
What all right, so you said Thailand, you said Vietnam, where
That's
else?
it. Yeah,
Oh,
just
that's it.
Thailand, Vietnam. Yeah, but like
Okay.
Bangkok, Chiang Mai Islands, Phuket.
What what made you choose these places?
I just always wanted to go. I love Thai food and Vietnamese food. And
Okay.
I've heard that, I mean, a lot of my friends have been there. I've heard it's once you get there, it's very cheap to get around and to eat and to live. Like our hotels and hostels and stuff are like 15, $20 a night.
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
wow.
I think food's like $3 or $4 a meal. Like stuff's very inexpensive there. And so that's one of the main reasons.
Okay. Because it's
I
cheap.
don't know. I've never been to Asia. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I mean, it's a very popular travel destination. Like we're gonna run across tons of Americans and Europeans and stuff there. I think across the
Okay.
world.
Okay. What all right, so you go on the vacation, you're going to Ann Arbor for a year, um, and then you gonna come back. I mean, are we gonna see could there be a Ross return at any point?
I'm definitely not ruling out that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, if the stars align, I would love to potential. I mean, there's a yeah, definitely a time. Definitely a possibility of some sort of return down the road. I think the odds are. I think the chances of that are below 50.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but who knows? I mean, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I could see myself in some way contributing. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I have thought about continuing the podcast, some sort of podcast hosting thing. But that's the ideal dream job is to be the podcast host guy, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
the. Um, we'll see. I do want to stay in sports, but anybody out there listening has any job offers for me or knows anybody in Ann
So
Arbor or knows anybody here? We'll see.
so
I do
you're
not
but
have a
you're
job
going
lined up.
okay, okay. And I guess that doesn't I don't want to say obviously it worries you or whatever, but it's not like this huge concern. Like that would drive I could never that's one thing I couldn't do is just not have something lined up and just you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I
I guess
definitely
you're
want a job.
confident you can find something.
We'll see. I can find something. I can find something.
Okay.
Maybe not something I want, but I am slightly concerned of the lack of paycheck over,
Okay.
once it extends after a couple months. I do have some money saved. Very thrifty. I eat a lot of rice and beans. I do not go out to eat. I don't, I'm very good with my money. I do have some money saved, but you know, no longer cell phone bills covered. The internet's not longer no, covered. You pay for your own insurance. The costs are going to add up. and so I'm gonna at some point want a paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of things I could do that just to work at I could work at McDonald's or something.
Yeah. Sell your
Uh,
body.
I was at Lululemon earlier today, and I was like, I could kind of work here, and then get the.
I do that a
I'm
lot. I
great
go
at
to
sales. I would be great at sales, like
I
that
wouldn't
kind of
want to do
sales.
sales, but like I go to some places, I'm like, you know what, this wouldn't be such a bad place to work, you know?
Especially you get like a discount from Lululemon. Like I love their stuff.
Okay.
Or like REI, and just like because I feel like I'm really good at helping people like give recommendations and stuff. But that's not the career. I hopefully want to do something in Ann Arbor that will add to my skill set. Doing something a little bit different, and then be able to either do that remotely or and then come back here and do something similar. Jim
All right.
Harbaugh's body man.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, that was all the questions I had.
Okay, good
It
stuff.
is I am sad to see you go, Ross, believe it or not. And
What's the future of the scoop?
so that's a work in progress, but yeah, Tommy's going to, I guess, fill in. We are going to do some things a little bit differently because obviously we don't want it to be a situation where, we're just trading. No one can replace Ross. Tommy can't replace Ross. So we're gonna. We're still working through it, but there have been some ideas thrown around that will kind of change it so it's different, so that it feels like a different show because, like I said, no one can replace Ross and the
There you go.
chemistry that we have. I always hear about the chemistry. Even my brother, he's a huge sports fan, but not a UNC fan, mentioned the other day that he had watched a couple of our podcasts and he was like, "Wow, you guys have great chemistry." So maybe,
Whoa.
hey, you know what? We got to keep, and this is literally just me speaking off the hip right now. Um, maybe there's some sort of off-topic podcast or whatever in our future, you and I.
Yeah, and look, I would be more than willing to come on special situations. I don't know, maybe like a big commitment or something I can
Okay.
add something to. I don't know. I mean, I want to. I don't know if y'all would even want me on, but if you're like, let's have Ross on. There's not much to talk about. Let's
Let's
bring
see what
Ross on and
Ross is
talk.
doing.
Like midway through the season or something. I'd be happy to come on. Um, yeah, Don, I appreciate you. It's been a great partnership here last 3-4 years. I think we started relatively during COVID, maybe a little bit before
Was
COVID.
it? I can't even remember. It's one of those
Yeah,
things where it feels like and this is honest, I'm not joking. It feels like it wasn't that long ago, but then like when you start to think about it, it has been a long time that we've been doing this. Like I have no idea how long we've been doing this.
yeah. It'd be interesting to see how many shows we've done.
Yeah. I mean, I have
Because
no clue.
we've definitely done shows before we moved to Zoom. Yeah, we did
Yeah, we
shows
did.
way
Did
before
we?
Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it's been great. Almost every 2 weeks. A couple of times we got off track with the schedule,
A
but
lot of
definitely some
times.
big recruitments, and we navigated some of the best classes in recent history with the 2020 and 21 class. So it's been great.
So hey, when are you going to Thailand? Maybe we can have you on as a guest from Thailand. Is that possible?
I don't want to. I'm not trying to do that.
We
I'm going
just
next
to
Tuesday.
ask you off next Tuesday?
I'll be in San Francisco next Tuesday for the whole day, and I'm flying out like that night.
Wow. Okay. I was going to say from a standpoint of just interviewing you and how the trip is going, not talking UNC football.
Oh, after the trip.
I'm talking during, like live
Uh,
from Thailand.
you're gonna hear like chickens in the background.
Yeah. Do you have working internet there?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a third world country. Um, I got to figure out my cell phone situation over there too.
Well,
all right,
we'll be in
Donald.
touch.
Yeah, I mean, we'll stay
It's been
friends.
great.
I imagine when I come back, I'll definitely watch more college football with you.
Yeah. Always welcome. Ross has a full invitation always to the Man Tower. You know how it is here. I mean, my wife ignores me most of the time. So, come on, hang up in the Man Tower. She'll never know.
That's right. We'll get some beef and bean nachos,
That's right.
especially. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I appreciate all the listeners. We have a kind of I feel like we have a dedicated group because this is a very niche podcast. Not too many UNC football recruiting fans out there. So we do appreciate y'all. I appreciate everybody who stops me at games and practices and around the campus and stuff about this podcast. It's been a good run, but I'll be around. I'll be around Chapel Hill this summer, and then I'll be back hopefully in about a year and a half. All right. Good
Yep,
stuff,
sounds
Don.
good.
You're all good?
Yeah. Yeah, hate to see it end.
There we go. All right. See you guys.